We often hear the potential for student success described as a three-legged stool, with student effort, parental involvement, and school leadership as the three legs. However, we find the metaphor fails pretty quickly, just as a two-legged stool does. We prefer the analogy of a three-engine airplane. With all engines functioning as expected, the student providing effort, parents providing support, teachers and administrators providing instruction, the engines can operate as designed. Three-engine airplanes can fly longer and more efficiently, powering the way to destinations as far as the designer can imagine, allowing a student to reach their full potential. Clearly, this is the best case. However, a student can still be successful even if only two engines are running. In other words, if the parent engine isn't functioning. With two engines, the plane won't crash and can even have a successful flight. It just may not be able to travel all the way to the original destination. Just as a plane can continue to fly with only two engines, it is important to recognize that a lack of parental involvement does not mean a child will fail. Although the plane likely cannot go as far as it could with all three engines, and rarely reaches the original destination, it can successfully travel a good distance, and pilots have the opportunity to find a suitable alternate destination. We will see in the following interviews some methods for successfully engaging parents, students, and school leadership, because having all three engines running clearly provides the most efficient, most direct path to fulfilling a child's ultimate potential. That said, even in the absence of parental involvement, the student can still succeed if the other two engines are still running. We, as education leaders, must make sure we provide engines for the success of our children.
The more we can involve the parent in the education of their student, the better we all are. And we will talk about different ways in which a school can help that to occur. But the caveat I want to put in right at the very beginning is that as a principal of a school and as a school, we actually take the responsibility for that child's success.
For me, the most important thing about parental involvement is I think sometimes in public education, the lack of parental involvement can become an excuse for educators. And so you'll have teachers that will say, yeah, well, I can't get results with these kids because their parents are not involved. And we really try to challenge that mindset that it doesn't matter if the parent never shows up at school. That's not an excuse for you to get results. I think accountability starts with creating a welcoming environment for parents. A lot of times parents are not engaged in their child's education because they don't feel welcomed at the school. They may have had a very negative experience when they were in school, or they maybe at their child's previous school had a very negative interaction with the staff. It often happens the minute you walk in the door of a school where the secretary is the grumpiest person on staff, and they don't feel that welcoming environment. So I think it starts there.
Beside that, I think the overall grid that you put parent involvement through is how you welcome the parent into your school. So there's a culture climate piece that I think principals and schools have to pay close attention to. Is the climate welcoming to a parent? How do we communicate with the parent about the needs? Schools are very complex environments, and how we work with that parent to say, okay, within this complex environment of the school, what works best for your student?
And I know this sounds simplistic, but it starts with the minute somebody walks into the door of the school. They need to feel that there are folks immediately available to them that really see it as their job to make them feel comfortable walking into the school and to immediately determine what their needs are and how we can best help them. So it starts with even having a receptionist who is very skilled at being able to determine parent needs quickly.
From the beginning, when we conceived of the Da Vinci Academy, we announced to parents in the very first parent information meetings that We fully understand that for too long, public education has offered parents two choices, and it was pretty much take it or leave it. And we wanted to correct that by inviting parents to partner with us from the very beginning, that the Da Vinci Academy was one of our efforts to create what we call a niche program where we can place children and therefore families in a niche that is well suited to the child's interest, strengths, and the parents' desires for that child, for the type of educational environment. And so we made it known from the beginning that parents would be a welcome and important part of this program.
I think what's helped me the most is listen to parents, and parents will tell you, and I ask parents, what's the best way to communicate with you? There's not a silver bullet that's going to work for everything. And that parent will tell you, this is how I respond best. And sometimes we tell parents, this is how we respond best if you have an issue or concern. And so everybody has a little different way in which we want to communicate.
As a principal, I found myself oftentimes, I worked hard to develop relationships with families from the very beginning. I would joke around with them. I had a very friendly relationship. But that also meant that when I had to have that tough conversation, that we already had a relationship of trust. So I could go out to the car and I would stand at the front door every day when the kids were being let off and shaking their hands as they walked in the door. But those were the conversations that if I had noticed a kid was being consistently dropped off late, I would go out, flag the car down, and have that conversation right then. That starts with leadership. You have to have that kind of relationship as the leader of the school with your family so that you can call them out and be honest with them. And in a family, you can have those difficult conversations and it's not taken with offense. And I think I really try to create that as a school leader, and I try to train my principals to do the same thing, that you create those relationships so that when you have to have those difficult conversations, they're not so difficult.
Even though it's certainly helpful when parents make appointments to be able to talk to folks, we very much are open to, if someone has a pressing need and they come to our school and that's the time they really need to be able to talk to somebody, we will make sure that we avail at least an administrator to be able to meet that parent right at their point of need. The other, another access point for our parents is through our Parent Center. We have what we call an assessment and assimilation program for bringing in new students and families. So when we are enrolling new students, while we're assessing students and determining how we can best serve them, our Parent Center is meeting with the families to learn more about the student, to help contribute to that body of information that we need to be successful with that student.
I think the benefits of that sort of collaborative partnership with parents, the benefits for children, one is achievement. Of course, that's what we're all about in schools, that achievement, that the Da Vinci Academy is a middle school program. And so young adolescents, we know, often, and it's a natural developmental stage, begin to pull back from their parents and not share everything with them as they might when they were younger students. And that's normal and natural, and we understand that. But parents often feel that they are suddenly not as involved with their children's education at the middle school level, and part of that is the children as they develop. But part of it, I think, is the middle school structure. And we recognize that parents want to still be involved.
When I have expectations of the parents and we talk about parent involvement, well, there is a baseline that I think is the most important thing for the parent. It is not coming up here, listen to our band concert or the spaghetti dinners or the fall festival. It's really creating that environment in the home that's conducive for learning. A lot of our parents have multiple jobs and multiple kids, and it's really hard for them to physically be here. So when I talk about parental involvement, there's another piece here that I think we should keep in mind. The most important piece is to create that atmosphere in the culture in the home, that education is important, and I'm going to give you space and time. I'm going to insist upon it that you do what you need to do at home to be prepared the next day. Make sure you get to bed early. Make sure you get up and get out of school on time. And even if I can't help you in algebra, make sure that I'm asking you those right questions to, if you're struggling, to ensure that that student gets extra help. So I think there's a lot of different things, and sometimes when we think of parent involvement, we always think about the parent being physically in the building, and I would suggest that the bigger piece is how they're involved in their students' learning at home.
I've never met a parent who didn't want what was best for their child. I think all parents want their children to be successful in school. I've definitely come across obstacles from time to time where families may see a different path for their child and may see education as not necessarily the most important path for reaching their goals. And we've had situations where we've had, an uncle at home, for example, who would say things to their child like, I don't know why you have to go to school on Saturday. I don't know why you have all this homework. And that's not necessarily reinforcing what we're trying to do at school and the message of working hard that we try to communicate to our kids. So what we say to our families is the most important thing you can do is be a united front with us. So if we're giving out consequences at school for the little things that your child is doing, they don't need to get home and hear you say, I don't know why they're being so nitpicky. It needs to be a united front. We need to be on the same team. And we really work hard at the front end of the relationship to make sure that our parents understand that we have to be that united front. We want to make sure that when parents sign up, they're clear what they're committing to, and they're clear about what their commitment to excellence is. We actually have them sign a contract, which is symbolic in nature. It's not a legal agreement, but it is a contract where it lays out for them all the expectations. We ask them to check their child's homework every night. We ask them to make sure their child's in their uniform every day. We ask them to make sure their child gets to school on time each day. So we go through those expectations for the parents and make it crystal clear for them when they sign up for our school. That's what begins the relationship. I think many of our parents are surprised that a staff member will come and sit down in their living room, and that's their first interaction with the school. We try to make that point from the very beginning. This is a different kind of place. We're going to come into your home, and if your child's acting up or having challenges at school, we may show up back at home again to have those conversations, because it very much is a family atmosphere at our school, and we want our parents to feel welcome when they come here, and we think that starts by being in their homes first.
I will tell parents when I meet with them in the Parent Leadership Academy, I want to train you to be a polite pain in our side, because if you are expecting great things of us, we will more than rise to that occasion and make sure your kids are getting an excellent education. So I think it's both our center approach and the mindset that we have about embracing parent involvement.
We have invited them to be a part of all decision making. The curriculum, they have input on the building, fundraising. They sit on boards to help plan the fundraising and approve expenditures in equal partnership with our teachers. Our
school actually has a parent center specifically designed to be the parent involvement arm for the school. We do have a parent center coordinator, and she is a certified teacher, and her job is specifically to design parent involvement experiences that would help equip parents to assist their kids at home, to help them better understand what students are being taught here in the middle school curriculum, how to support the transitional kind of behaviors that kids go through in middle school. She also teaches them things like how to best participate in parent conferences, the kinds of questions that they might want to be asking of their teachers to better understand how their kids are performing. She also is responsible for our Parent Leadership Academy. So above and beyond those general workshops and experiences that we offer for our parents, we have an academy that's designed to give parents even more in-depth information about how to navigate the system on behalf of their students. One of the things we really believe here is that for kids to be successful in middle school and high school and in going to college, that our parents have to be proficient at how to navigate systems for their kids.
We also have parent universities I mentioned on Saturdays. So we have time carved out at our schools where parents can come in, and we've done everything from teaching our parents the same math strategies we're teaching their kids, to offering Spanish classes, computer classes. We've done things like how to purchase your first home courses. So those are kind of resources that our families have at school if they need them. And that's another way we get our parents engaged. So they have a reason to come out and they feel like that they're also growing in much the same way that their child is.
But again, the overall thing is to create that culture and atmosphere that one thing I know is I've never met a parent in my life that didn't want the best for their child. And so starting from that premise, we got an ally here. We just need to make sure that we're working together to create what is best for that child. Sometimes those parents don't have the resources to make that happen, and then we can help gather those resources for them or encourage them to search out and create those environments in the home in which they'll be successful. But all parents want their children to be successful. We just have to work together to make that happen.
I have to keep going back to really developing that core belief and understanding that our parents are our kids' first and best teachers. And we really need to understand that at a deep level. We need to create points of access that honor that, and that we are constantly reaching out to our parents, because if they are engaged in their kids' education, their kids are not only going to be successful, they're going to thrive. And we've got to have that mindset that we absolutely cannot do it without them, but we also can't just stand there and wait idly and expect that people are just going to come through the doors. We've got to reach out and bring them in.